Hattie from Paint It Yourself Pottery, and I'm going to be running our cacti plant pot paint along today using our graffiti effect to do this one. So welcome to everyone who is painting with us today, and if you're not painting with us today, please feel free to tune in and watch along as we do some painting and learn a new pottery painting technique. So we're going to get straight into it today. I'll show you the colours that I'm going to be using. So let's have a look. So what we're going to be doing is learning lots of different techniques, including layering different sorts of paints, and then we'll be scratching it off to get this lovely effect on here. And to do that, I'm not sure if you guys can see under here where the spots and the stars are, and the outlining, we are going to have to cover the whole base of our plant pot yellow, this bit here. So what we will be doing first is just to take your base and put it to the side for now. I'm going to be using a nice bright yellow, the number 8, which is this one here. This is what it will look like once it comes out of the kiln. So don't worry if your colours look a little bit pale at the minute, they will be nice and bright once they come out of the kiln, once they're glazed and fired as well. So we're just going to take this yellow one to begin with. Let's see who's tuned in. Hello Rona, hi Rachel. That's really good that you can see me okay. Just let me know if you want any close-ups of anything, guys, as I paint along, or if you want me to backtrack. So what I'm doing now is I've just wetted the brush slightly. I'm going to mix the tiniest bit of water in with my paint. We don't want to use very much, just the tiniest bit, so that it moves nice and easily across the pottery. Because the pottery is so porous, it absorbs the paint really quickly, so we want to try and get it on there as quickly as possible. So you can see now I'm using a nice flat brush. If you guys have got a big brush at home, that's quite a good one to use. I'll show you a little bit later on as well, some different techniques we can use to get background colours on there. But for now, I'm just using a little bit of water, keeping my brush nice and wet when I'm putting the paint on, and just using big long strokes all around the pot. Okay. So if your paintbrush is starting to get a little bit sticky, and that means that your paintbrush is too dry, so you can see here it's getting a little bit too dry, we can't get the paint all the way across on the brush stroke, so we're going to dip it in a little bit more water, make sure we've got more paint on there, and then there we go, that's a much nicer stroke to be doing on there. You can see that. So we're just going to do a nice thin layer all over our pottery. It doesn't really matter if it's streaky because we're going to be covering it all up. So this pottery painting technique is very forgiving, which is really nice. Say hello if you've just joined us. Be nice to see who is watching along today. So we're just going to do our yellow up to the rim here. We're not going to touch the rim because we'll be painting that in a different colour later on. So we're nearly finished now. This is just a nice quick job to begin with, just getting that paint on. Don't worry too much about getting it up too neatly up to the top of the pot, because we're going to be going over it and making sure we do it nice and neatly with the black, so don't worry too much about that. So it's just a nice quick coverage on there, so I'll show you guys there. You can see it's quite streaky, but we're not too bothered about that at this point. So that's probably what you guys are looking for at the minute. Let's have a look who's joined us. Hello Rebecca, how are you? Nice to see you watching along. Wonder what pottery pieces you've been up to this week. Do keep sending us in photos. I hope you're pleased with the ones that came out of the kiln. They were gorgeous. So what we're going to do now, you'll be able to tell because the pottery is so porous and it's a lovely day today. So the paint will have dried really quickly. It should be dry by now. So what we're going to do next is take a felt tip pen, and this can just be any old felt tip pen. They actually completely burn off and disappear once your pottery goes into the kiln. So what you want to do is take your felt tip, and what we're going to be doing next is planning where we want the cacti to go on our plant pot and which different ones we want to have. So I'm going to copy a few of these ones on here just because it's nice. There's lots of nice different ones on here that we can do, which is good, but feel free to put your own versions, or if you're a little bit of a plant nerd, to do whichever plants you'd like on there. And a good technique with using felt tip pen on top of paint I like to use is just to dot it, because it can be quite hard to not scrape the paint that you've already got on there when you're drawing over the painting that you've done. So you don't want really to scratch that off, because we'll be doing that a little bit later on anyway. So what I'm going to do is start off with this nice big one there that you can see. So I'm just going to dot like this the outline of that cactus there. I will show you guys a close-up. Please tell me to slow down if you're painting along, or if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I know that Rachel is at home doing some cooking today, and she's going to try and catch any of the questions that you guys have that I'm going to miss, which is lovely. So everyone say hello to Rachel. Here we go. So you can see I've just dotted, let me just check. Yeah, I've just dotted the outline of where I want that cactus to go. I'm just going to give it the little flowery bits on the top as well, so I can remember. There we go. So the reason why I have done the felt tip after I've done the yellow background is because sometimes when you're painting on top of your felt tips, if you're doing a background colour, the felt tip pen really fades, so you can't actually see what you've drawn underneath, and it doesn't affect the pottery overall, but it can be a little bit frustrating if you're trying to copy a design. So that's why we're doing the felt tip on top. It's just cracking on with the next cactus down here. Also, please don't worry if you go wrong with this felt tip pen bit, because it's all going to burn away once it goes into the kiln. So again, it's very forgiving, and you can just copy the lines that you want to do. Here we go. I'll just show you, I've just dotted an outline there for the next one. Just moving our way around the pot. If anyone knows any facts about succulents, please do share them. I would love to say I knew some of these names, but I don't, unfortunately. This is a very popular design though in the shop. People love to do cacti designs. it's really nice that you can hear the bird song again. You know, it was gorgeous when I was sat out here last night. We had there was, I'm not sure whether they're house martins or swifts, but they were going around at dusk trying to catch all the midges, and it was really beautiful last night. But if you sit for still long enough, they fly really close, which is really nice. So I've just got 2 more to just dot on there. If you haven't got a felt tip pen, or you'd like to skip this part and you feel confident enough to go straight for it, then by all means please skip this part. It can be quite nice to see what you come up with just freehand sometimes as well. Okay, so I've just finished those ones there. You can see all of my little dotted cacti on there. So next, what we're going to do, we don't need the felt tip pen anymore, is we are going to squish out some of our green paint and start painting our cacti on there. So you can see I'm going to be using here the number 10, this nice bright green, and the number 12 here, and a nice dark green there. You'll be actually really surprised how little of the 12, the number 12 paint you will need, just because it is so dark and it goes such a long way. So yeah, you will be surprised using that one. So we're going to start off with our light green. I'm just going to squeeze them both out now. So we've got them both. And then for paintbrush size, you probably want a medium-sized paintbrush to a small-sized one. I'm going to go for this one starting off with. I might change to one that's a little bit smaller. I don't know if you can see the size there. So what I'm going to do is just take the light green and just start painting. I'm going to check for reference on here so I can get it quite similar. Just go ahead and start painting in my cacti, and again, you don't have to worry about it being too perfect. We're just going to go paint inside our dotted, or to our dotted cacti there. So as you can see on this one, we have got, I'm just painting these two here. So we've got a slightly darker green cacti there, so I'm going to do some colour mixing for that one, and then we've got the light green one there which I've just painted, but we've also got these pink bits up here, so just leave those bits for now. We can do the pink bits second. For now, let's just try and do all of our green. There's a nice light green there. Before I start mixing my colours, actually, I'm going to do all of the bits that are in this nice light green. I'm just going to have a look on the rest of the pot. So also, if you guys have done a big one like this one at the start, that one seems to be that nice number 10 green as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint that straight on there. So you want to be using a dry paintbrush to put this paint on, because we want it to be thicker than when we put the yellow on, because we want that green to be really nice and bright, but also we want to be putting quite a lot of paint on our brush. You can see how loaded my brush is when I'm painting, because yeah, we just want that to be really nice and bright when it comes out of the kiln. Bit on the top, you can see there. just going to paint this little guy. You think they're sparrows, Rona? You know, I'm not sure whether it was sparrows last night because I think they have slightly longer. I mean, I'm no expert. They have slightly longer tail feathers, but I'm no expert in those. So I would really like to know actually a little bit more about the birds that are here. Really lucky to have some outside space at this time. So what I've just done then is just washed my paintbrush off. I've dried it on a cloth that I've just got here. You can use a bit of tissue, you can use an apron. You'll probably see me using my overalls during this video at some point. So what we're going to do now is mix a little bit of some of the colours together. So I'm going to mix the tiniest bit, just the tiniest little blob there of dark green in with my light green because it is so dark. I think you guys can see just from that tiny blob, you can see how much that's already changed that green there. But we've got a slightly darker green that we can work with now. Don't worry about if your colours aren't completely mixed because that kind of works with this design. So if the green's a little bit different from what you'd hoped, just go with it because they're all a little bit different on this pot, so that's quite nice. I'm going to go ahead and do exactly the same as what we were doing before, painting them on, but just with this slightly darker green now. Lovely. I'm just going to mix a little bit more of that together now. So you can see it's a tiny bit different there. Nice. I'm going to move on, actually add a tiny little bit more dark because the next ones I'm doing, which are here, they're a little bit dark. I'm going to add some darker green on top, but those two long cacti there, just going to do them a little bit darker just to mix it all up a little bit. You can add a tiny bit of water if you feel like it's your paint needs it, if it's getting quite sticky and not wanting to move over the paint like you can see there. With that brush stroke, add a bit more paint, add a little tiny bit more water. Awesome. Now what we've got is we have got a really dark one just down there, so I'm going to use the darkest green now for that. I will show you guys a close-up in a second. now. Have we got all of our little guys on there? Yes, everyone is painted now with the first layer. So I'll show you lot. Here we go, so it really doesn't have to be too perfect, we're just filling in those dotted lines that we've made. That's our first layer. Now what we're going to do, actually, and your paint should have dried already, is we're going to add some darker green to make shadows. So I'm going to add the tiniest bit of water just because my paint's drying out, because the weather's so lovely. And what I'm going to do, I've just dabbed it on the top of my paintbrush because we don't want the paint to be too thick now. And as you guys can see on those two cacti there, oh, hello Amy, really lovely to see you watching along today. So on those two green ones, you can see there's some kind of darker sections of the cactus that are slanting downwards. So I'm just going to add in a few of those. Just to give it a little bit of texture. We can define this as well with the when we scratch it off and do the sgraffito effect later. I'm just doing it just with a single stroke all the way down, as you can see there. And then, as you can see on this one here, you can see we've got some darker green shadows on that bit there as well. So I'm just going to add those onto some of the rest of our cacti. So when you're looking at it, if you just want to think, where would those darker shadows be on a cactus? And if you kind of imagine the lights coming from above, as it normally would be, and just imagine where those darker bits would be, that can really help. And you don't have to do it on all of them, you can do it on just a few if that helps. It's also just getting some of the lines a bit more defined. This really hasn't got to be too perfect because we're going to be defining it with the toothpicks a little bit later on. So I think I'm going to do one more and then I'm happy with the darker bits there. And when you're painting with those, just go with your paintbrush. It looks a lot better the more relaxed you are. So you can see now I've done my green bits, my dark green bits there. Lovely. Let me just have a look. Please don't be afraid to ask questions. Hello Victoria, how are you? Hope that you've been all right during the lockdown. We miss you at the shop. So next I'm going to put some of our little pink bits on there. So I'm going to use the number 27, which I'll show you now. It's a nice light pink. This one here. And then I'm also going to use a little bit of 29 and do exactly the same as I just did with the green bits of the cacti to do the flowers on there as well. So that's your 27 and 29. Now with 27 I would put it on quite thickly because it is quite a light colour. Got some very vocal birds today. I think they knew that we were doing a paint along. So I'll show you guys now. I really haven't been too perfect with putting that pink on there. I am actually going to give that a second layer once it dries, just to make it really pop. But we are going to be outlining with the sgraffito, so don't worry about it being too perfect. Got any other pink bits on there? Just going to add another layer on top of that. These pink bits here. See how quickly the paint dries. We can do a second layer already. And then round on this little guy here. Now this guy here, he's got some darker yellow on him. As you can see there, his flowers are a little bit of a darker yellow. So while I'm waiting for that light pink to dry, I'm just going to use a little bit of number 9 here, which is this one here. Do his nice flowers. So this design actually I think originated from a computer mouse pad which we had at the shop, which we all really liked, so we decided to see if we could put it on some pottery. So you never know where your inspiration might come from. Just using brush strokes to do these flowers here. Really nice and easy, not thinking about it too much. It's a really good design to do if you're not particularly confident at painting. Because it's using the techniques that you can make it look so effective. Just going to go over that, make sure it's nice and thick on there. Okay, lovely. I'm going to wash my paintbrush off again, and I'm going to add some dark pink bits on top of my light pink, and I'm just going to do this at the base of those to kind of make them look like petals a little bit. I will give you guys a close-up when I've done. Go, so you can see the dark pink there on that one, and also on this guy here. So on this guy we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to copy this one straight across, and you can see he's actually got darker pink dots on him. So how we're going to do dots now, also there's we've got some darker dots on a couple of the other, you can see around the, where are we? Yeah, on the inside of this dude here. Might be able to see there's some dots on there. So we can do some of them now, and we can do some of them once we've done this graffito as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end of a ordinary paintbrush, and I'm just going to dip it straight into our dark pink, and then I'm going to lightly dab it on top here. And you'll probably need to keep dipping it in because the bottom of your paintbrush can't hold very much paint, so you will have to keep topping it up. This is a really nice way to get different sized dots as well. If you put lots of paint on and press quite hard, then you can get some quite big ones. If you press very lightly, you get some really weeny dots. I'll give you guys a close-up of this too, so you can see. So I'm going to do the rest of my polka dots a little bit later on, and that's just to show you guys that technique for now. So let's have a look. I think we are ready to move on to our next step. So this step may seem a little bit daunting, but don't worry, we are going to get our black out and cover the background in black. So if you just want to squish out your black paint, then what we will do is you're going to need it would be easy if you do have kind of a medium size and a big brush. I'm going to use, you can do it all with a medium sized brush just to get around those parts. I'm going to use a big brush or a slightly bigger brush just to do it a little bit quicker on those big areas. So we're just going to slap that black paint straight on, and you can see I'm not using any water with this for now. I might need to when I'm doing the paintwork a little bit closer to our cacti, but I'm just filling these spaces for now. We want it on there quite thickly because we don't really want our paint to be very streaky, and I'm going to try my very best to keep my brush strokes all going in the same direction where possible. I'm not going to be able to do that going around my cacti, but this bit now is probably our trickiest bit. So you can see how I'm holding the front part. That's probably the easiest way to do it. But I'm just going to do all of these big gaps that I can see first. Move that paint around. I'm not going too close to the cacti because I can get that with a smaller brush later. And at the top here, I'm just cutting in near the top of the bowl, trying to do, to the top of the rim, trying to do as neat a job as I can. However, be kind to yourself. It's hand painted pottery, so it's nice that it's not perfect. So don't worry if you can't get it perfectly neat. You will find that you'll have to put more paint on your brush quite often because pottery and the paint that's already on there will be very porous now, so it will just be sucking it straight up. Now we're probably gonna only need to do one layer of this black paint just because it's the darkest, and you can see how thickly you want to be putting it on, because if you're not doing it thick enough, you will be able to see the yellow through your paint. The other thing about this black as well is that it might look a little bit grey at the minute, but please don't worry, because once it comes out of the kiln it will be nice and black like our 41 there. So don't worry at all if you think it looks a little bit grey. It will come out just like this one here. More black paint. Pretty much there for all the big bits, really. Trying to keep the thickness of paint as equal as possible. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and take my medium-ish size brush, which has got kind of a slightly pointed end. I'm just going to dry it off as well, because I want to keep that paint nice and thick. The good thing about these paints as well is that they, before they go in the kiln, they are completely water-based and they will completely come out of clothes, so don't worry if you get messy with this, painting this one today. Your clothes will be absolutely fine, otherwise all of my clothes would be ruined. So what I'm doing now is just cutting in. Please don't worry if you go over your cacti, or if you leave a little bit of space around them. It's all part of the look on this plant pot, and you really won't notice it so much once you start doing this graffito. So this is probably the bit that takes the most amount of concentration, doing this technique. Here we go, so I've just in around this little guy here. I will show you it is far from perfect, so please don't worry if you've gone over your lines at all. this guy with his yellow flowers on top is proving to be a little bit tricky. So just get as close as you can to those, defining those edges. That's brilliant. Gorgeous pottery piece. You can then buy a really nice plant to go in it when you give it to them, and you get the joy and the therapy of painting it too, so it's win-win all round. Okay, we are 2 down. I'm not sure actually how many we've got on this one. Two down and 2, 3, 4 more to go. I'm just going to check and see if anyone has any questions. Yes, Rona, I also get nervous using the black. Don't worry, it's not just you. Oh, thank you, Shania, for saying that. Hello, Hannah Williams. I hope you're good. Really, really nice that you've joined us. I miss you. So while I'm just outlining these 4 little guys, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Live at 5, which Rachel will be doing tomorrow. So I'm not sure if any of you watching now have tuned into our happy hour on a Wednesday night, which is a flash pottery sale that Rachel does on live, Facebook Live, where she will show you all the pottery in the shop, and people have to comment sold and the pottery piece that they would like to buy, because we've got so many pottery pieces in the shop. It is impossible at this point really to get them all online, though we are working on it. So you can actually buy your pottery pieces during our happy hour, and you can come and collect them from the shop, which we're really excited to be doing since last Sunday's announcement. But yeah, it's really good fun. Also, the best bit about happy hour is that there are prizes for everyone who buys a piece of pottery during it. There's some really good prizes in there, actually, so if you haven't checked it out, do. And tomorrow night we're actually doing our first children's version of happy hour, which we are calling Live at 5. So at 5 p.m. tomorrow, Rachel will be going live through Paint It Yourself Pottery's Facebook page, and she will be showing different ranges of children's pottery, and we're also hoping to do some paint-alongs during half term. And when I was in on Thursday, I had a go at doing some awesome new pottery painting techniques to be able to teach during children's special paint-alongs, which will be really, really awesome to do during half term, and to see some younger faces on here too. So yeah, do join us tomorrow if you would like to get some pottery for any little ones at home. and help them to get a little bit creative and continue doing some activities during half term. You know, that can be quite hard for those of you with children at the minute. Yeah, so please do join us, and there's prizes tomorrow as well, which will be really nice and fun. So I think I've only got 2 more to do now, and then I'm going to show you guys a close-up of what I've done so far. These guys are going to be quite easy because I haven't got to go in between any little bits. I like these ones. Actually haven't had to switch to a smaller paintbrush, which is quite good. I've been able to cut in on all of these cacti using a medium-sized brush, which is quite good. I think the thing is that it doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to neaten it all up. So that's what's making it easier. Now on to the last one. I haven't actually used any water whatsoever using this black either. I've kept it really nice and thick throughout. So there we have it. That's all of our black done for now. So you can see it's a little bit patchy where it's still wet, where I've gone around and cut in on some of the cacti, but you can see it's far from perfect. We're just getting it on there, and we can touch that up with the sgraffito. Now, while we're waiting for that to dry, because it has to be completely dry for us to start doing the sgraffito bits, we're going to paint our plant pot base. I'll just check in and see if anyone's got any questions so far. Yes, Rona, do join us for live at 5. That's great. So I'm going to show you how to do a couple, how to do background colours a couple different ways if you haven't got a big paintbrush at home that you can use. So what I'm going to do is just save that little bug in there that was drowning a little bit inside one of my mugs. I'm just using an old mug to do this, and what I'm going to do is, you can see our our plant pots base here. We've just got yellow on the inside and pink on the outside, so I'm probably going to do the same. I'm going to squish out a little bit more of our nice number 8, which was the bright background colour that we used there. And actually I'll show you this that technique second. What I'll show you first is just sponging. So this is a really nice way to get a background colour that is less streaky, so it's just a little bit more even. So what I'm going to do is just sponge straight on, and you can use any sponge that you've got at home. I just recommend that it's a new one or really clean, because if you get any grease in your pottery, sometimes the glaze in the paint finds it hard to stick there. So if you make sure you've got a really clean sponge, and I'm literally just sponging straight on there. I'm really gonna push to get into the gaps down there. This is a nice way to get quite an even coverage. The thing that you will find with our with sponging is that it uses more paint than you'd expect it to. Also means it's a little bit more textured, only slightly. You can definitely tell it's been sponged, but it's quite nice, and I think it works with this piece. This yellow one here was painted. I just thought I'd show you a few different ways. So you could totally do this, sponge the background of your the yellow background of your cactus plant pot, the first step that we did. You could totally do that using this technique. I'm just going to need a little bit more yellow as well. So you can see I'm just using a dabbing technique. If I brush it across like that, it's still nice, it's giving me a different technique, but you can definitely see it's a little bit more streaky. So I'm going to stick with just dabbing on there for now. Just going to dab over that bit as well. Now I'm just going to give it a second coat a little bit where it's dried already, just to make sure it's really nice and bright on there. So this is a good way to actually show the colour difference for you guys. The yellow isn't actually that much different from the number 8 yellow, from how it comes out when it goes through the kiln, but you can definitely see there's a difference there. Now let me show you up close. So that is the one I've just painted, and that's the one out of the kiln. So you can see it comes out a lot more vibrant when it comes out of the kiln. So that is a sponging technique, which is quite nice. And now for the second technique, I'm going to show you. You need a rag or a cloth, or you can even use a flannel actually. And again, just make sure that it's really super clean or brand new, just because you don't want to get any grease on there. And this is when we're going to use our mugs. I've put the tiniest bit of water, about that much in there, and I'm going to use our 29 here, which was the light pink. I will show you for those of you who weren't watching at the beginning. Oh sorry, yeah, the 29, which is this one here. So the reason why I'm using this one is because when we're using this technique, it's going to be a little bit more lighter and wishy-washy than if we were to sponge or use a brush with no water, because when you mix the paint with water, it lightens it a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is just give that a little bit of a mix. So I've squished some paint in there. I've probably used the same amount of paint as I have with water, so I can show you now. That's the sort of consistency, see that we're looking at. And because I'm just doing a small area, I don't need very much. So what I'm going to do is then just use my finger to dip my cloth in there, make sure it's quite wet with the paint, so you can see there. And then it's really nice and messy, this one. And then we're just going to brush it over our pottery, and this gives it like quite a nice wash. So there's two different ways that you can do this. You can brush it over like I'm doing now, or you can dab it. So I'll show you a close-up of me brushing it over. I'm actually going to add a little more paint as well. I think that I've done mine a little bit too watery, but I'll show you for now what this looks like. It's a really quick way of getting a background colour on there, but you'll be able to see it's a bit more streaky. See that there? It's a nice way of getting it covered. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more of that 29 paint. There we go. Give it another mix, make it a little bit thicker. Then I'm going to show you our dabbing technique. Really give it a good mix to mix it in with the water. You can also not use any water at all when you're doing this process. I just prefer it because it's means I can move the paint around a little bit easier on there. So what I'm going to do, same again, just take a small corner of the cloth. I'm just going to dab it on now. This also gives it a different texture, which is quite nice. It's really nice though just to use the different bits that you've got at home to paint your pottery pieces, give you some nice effects. I actually really like the texture that this one's giving now. Now that 29 is going to be a really nice light pink. Go. And so then the last step I'm going to do on our base is, as you can see here, we've just got some polka dots around the rim there. So we're going to do exactly the same as we did before with our polka dots. Take the end of a paintbrush there, and I'm going to use the 29 but the darker version of it because it's not washed down with water, and I'm just going to dot around the outside there. I actually might do the dark green as well in the middle, so I'm going to give it space enough between each dot. I'm going to check on you guys in a second, see if you've got any questions. So these dots take longer to dry because the paint's thicker, so just be careful to not smudge them, which I seem to be very good at, as you'll know from my last video. There we go, so I've just done the dots all around the rim there, and I'm just going to rinse that off. And then I'm going to add some with the dark green as well in the middle, just to jazz it up a little bit. And then the exciting part comes next, which will be doing our sgraffito technique. Brilliant. So that is our plant pot base done. Let me just see, check in. Has anyone got any questions? Would anybody like me to go over anything? just let me know. So now we will move on to our sgraffito. And what I would like you guys to do is take your toothpick. If you've got a kit with us, we should have put one in there. If not, you can just grab a toothpick or anything that's kind of going to have that scratchy point on there. And what we're going to do, we'll start off with this big guy here. So what we're going to do is literally just scratch away at the outline where the black meets the green. And I'm going to try and scratch away at a little bit more into where the black is rather than the green, but kind of somewhere in the middle. I will show you what this looks like in a second. Doesn't make the most pleasant of sounds while you're doing this. Yeah, and if you just give it a blow, because you'll see that you'll start to create a little bit of build up of the old paint. This is a little bit like drawing. So I'll show you a close-up. So the technique that I'm using for this is I am scratching back and forth just along that line where the black meets the green, just a few times to get it thick enough. Hope you guys can see it at that angle. And then I'm just going to check and go around and check that I've got all of those bits there. So I'm just outlining this dude for now. Again, this doesn't have to be too perfect because it's all part of the look and the effect. Just want to be scratching away that paint and giving it its outline. And now I'm going to move on to the flowers up top. This is a bit where you can really define those bits that you might have painted over, that I definitely did. Can't wait to show you guys how defined this is. I'll show you a close up in a second compared to what it looked like before. So you can see how much more defined that is now on these bits here. The thing is, you can't really see the magic of this design until it actually comes out of the kiln. That's a really exciting part of the process, to see that outline, which you guys can see on this one here. Now what I'm going to do is add some of the details onto this dude. So he's got some little spikes coming out of him along here, so I'm just going to scratch away doing them. Every now and then. You'll be able to tell how deep it is as you go. You just don't want to see any of that black. I hope you guys can see the angle all right there. Do let us know if you need me to move it at all. Now this bit can give you a little bit of cramp in your hand just because you're using such a small little scratchy tool. So do give your hand a little shake, a little exercise in between. This is going to look so cool. I love how with this technique you can kind of paint quite messy and be quite free with it, and then neaten it up with a little bit of sgraffito, and it looks so effective. I'm going to show you guys now. How cool does that look? And how it's got its outline on there. And you wouldn't have thought that when we first painted it with the black outlines. So I'm just going to make my way around and start outlining the other cacti. Just going to do it as quickly as I can. Now there's different details on each of the cacti. So on this little guy here, what we want to do is do some lines, actually, not only just his outline between the green and the black, we also want to do some lines coming down on the green to give him a little bit more definition. It's really nice because we've got that yellow tinge underneath, so that will be shining through. Try and stick with my green and my darker green shadowing that I've put on there as well, to make sure it all matches up. So you can see I've just added there the lines down the middle, and then what I'm going to do actually even on this one is I'm going to scratch away at the top a little bit and just add some even light. I'm just doing some random scratches here at the top, adding some, all going in the same direction though, but just to add some lighter shading on the top there. I don't know if you guys can see, but I've just done that, just so that yellow can shine through a little bit more. I'm just going to do the flower on the top of this one now. You do actually need to put quite a lot of pressure on this while you're using the sgraffito to get that paint off, so do make sure you've got a good surface to press into. Like I'm just using my leg here, which is working quite well for me. We sometimes use big sponges if we're trying to take handprints in the shop on top of baubles or similar round objects. That can be quite useful. So if you've got a big large sponge, that might be useful for this bit if you're doing this on a table. See, I've outlined my flower on top now. I've got a little bit of black in my outline, but I kind of like it. I dig it. It looks pretty cool. So we've got 4 more to go. Oops, just snapped my toothpick. It's quite good if you've got a few of these, just because the point does blunt a little bit, and for a design where you're using quite a lot of sgraffito, like this one. I'm just going to do one big sharp line down this guy because I want to spice it up and for him to be a little bit lighter. You can see where I've just done those lines there. flowery parts. The outline around there. This one's my favourite guy here, so I've just gone around him there. Just going to round up that bottom bit there as well a bit, scratch a little bit more away. Also, this bit's very forgiving. I know I keep saying that, but it really is a great design, because you can't really go wrong with it. All of it kind of looks part of the design, which is quite nice. Just going to see if anyone's got any questions. Hello Orly. Hope you're doing okay. Orly is also a very talented artist. She's very good at her watercolours. I am going to swap, Rachel, thank you very much for the recommendation. I'm going to swap to a scratchy tool, one that I've got here, but you can use anything similar to this as long as it's got a pointed end, and you can use metal on your pottery, that won't affect it, but you don't want it to be too pin sharp, because you do want to get a slightly bigger line between. See how that's see what you've got at home. Let me know what you're using to scratch off, whether you're using a toothpick. That's our preferred method for painting at home, just because generally most people have them, or a skewer. A skewer might be better because it's a bit longer. I'm actually going to switch back. I think I prefer the effect of the toothpick, just that one was a little bit too thin a line. I'll show you up close, it's a little bit thinner, but it's nice to spice it up a little bit. So I'm just going to do the lines across here as well. Just to give it a bit more texture. Always working with those shadow bits that we did earlier as well in the darker green. So I've just done those outlines as well. I'm going to have to remind myself what other detail was on these ones. Oh, so these, he's got some nice spikes coming out of him. So let's do these. It's literally the same technique, but I'm going to draw little triangles coming out and scratch away at the middle if there's anything left. So as I was saying before, I think we got this design from a computer mouse pad that we had at work that we really liked, and thought, how can we recreate that on pottery? So it's a good bit of inspiration there. But do you guys have any nice pattern stuff, anything that any designs that you really like? It could be on a bed sheet, a curtain, anything. If if you've got something that you want to create on Pottery, just send it in and we'll see what we can do, what ways we can, whether we could start doing more paint-alongs. We'd love to hear your ideas of new stuff that we could do too. I know one of my lovely friends, Rosie, has got a gorgeous tattoo on her arm, which was actually taken from an IKEA bedspread, which she loved, which I think is a really awesome tattoo to have. Yeah, so any designs that you just really love, do send us a picture in. We'd really love to see, and just see what you can create on Pottery out of them too. There might be ones that really work with this graffito technique as well. I'll give you guys a close-up of these triangles that I've just been doing as well. Nearly there. And then I think we only have 2 more little cactuses to do. It's a lot easier if you do your outline around the cactus first, and then you do your triangles or your lines coming out from that, because then you have a dent and a groove from your outline to work your triangle or your little line from. It's just going to add our diagonal lines across here, working with the darker green that we put on earlier. There we go. So you can see our little triangles around there. Right, now we have got this dude here. So what we're going to do, he actually doesn't have an outline. He has just got one graffito line running through him, and then almost little leaves coming off him. So we are going to do just that on these. I would really love to see what succulents you guys have put on your pots, so please do send us a photo, and I think you can actually even upload a photo onto the comments of these of this video if you are savvy with technology. I've actually completely blunted that that toothpick there as well. So I'm just going to grab another one. Just use some lines there to define that one there. We've got one more. This one's similar to the ones we started off with. Just going to do an outline. for now. I think that is all of our sgraffito on there done. Might have missed a bit, let me know if I have. Yeah, I'm really pleased with that for now. So the next step is to paint our pink rim and pink inside of our plant pot to finish it off. So the reason why I've saved this bit till last is because it was so useful being able to put pressure on while I was doing my sgraffito and doing the rest of my painting, being able to use the inside there. And we could have done it even if it was painted, but if those of you wear rings like me, it's so easy to actually chip the paintwork off. So I find it a lot easier to do this bit last. So I think we're going to use the the light number 27, which is this one here, to do the inside. That one will be a nice one to do. And I'm just going to take a big brush for this, but you can do the other two techniques that I showed you if you'd rather, using the cloth, or you can use the sponge to get a nice effect. I'm just going to put a tiny bit of water with my paint just to help it move across the pottery. You really don't want to be mixing it with the water, but just helping it to move a little bit easier. And to paint my rim here, I'm going to keep all my brush strokes the same, going in the same direction, and try and keep that thickness the same all the way around, because I don't want it to be as streak free as possible. If you guys can hear it in the background, but actually behind me, behind this building I'm sat by, is an airfield, and as of yesterday lunchtime, private planes were allowed to fly again, so you might be hearing them revving up their engines behind me, and if we're lucky enough we might be able to see one land. We'll see. They land right over, come down overhead, so if one does come in, I'll try and grab the camera and show you guys. It'll be really noisy though, you definitely won't miss the noise on that one. Okay, nice. So I have, oops, just put my fingers straight in that bit there. Just going to neaten that out again. But there is my nicely painted rim. Now I'm going to pop it down to paint my inside. Now I'm going to use quite a lot of paint on my brush at this point and just circle on the inside. I'll hold it up for you actually, just need a little bit more paint. So I'm really going to load it on because I want to be able to move the paint around the bottom here. So let's try and do this so you guys can see. So I'm going to really try and get an equal amount of thickness on the bottom there. Great. So I'm pleased with that. Now I've got it on the bottom. What I would like to do is now bring the paint up from the bottom in big long strokes. I think you guys can see that. I'll hold it up just in case. So we're going to put lots of paint on the brush and just bring it up, and I'm going to do that all the way around. I think just using the direct, like keeping your direction of strokes all going the same direction, and different techniques like using a lot of paint on the bottom and using just following the shape of the bottom like the circle and whatnot, that can really help you to get as even coverage of paint as possible. So I'm just pulling it up. Where is my 27? Need a little bit more paint already. This pottery roll, which is really helping me now, but you can literally just turn your pottery piece on the table using your hands as you do this. Okay, nice. So you can see I've just dragged all of the paint up there on the inside, and now the last bit is to do the inner rim here. And I'm just going to do that exactly the same way as I did the outer rim, just following the shape of the pottery piece. See if your guys' hands are as messy as mine once we finish this. Lovely. So we've got quite a nice even coverage quite quickly, just from following the different shapes of the bowl and using brush strokes there. So I'm going to show you now. See, the rim's done, the inside's done, all nice and pink, which is lovely. And then our final step is we are going to do our spots and stars around the plant pot here. I'm just going to do this really quickly with a sgraffito tool. I'm going to hold it really carefully just where it's dried so quickly. But I'm just going to do a few to show you guys, because it will take me forever to do all over, and I'll finish this off before I pop it in the kiln. So we're just doing some stars, just using lines here, some crosses, some stars. She would have been better to have done this step prior to me painting the inside, but if you guys can remember that at home. Here we go, just to do the dots, I'm just doing lots of little circles to scratch away. But you can see there, you just want to cover your pot in lots of those little dots and stars. But I won't make you guys sit there and watch me do that all afternoon. But now I'm just going to add our tiny little polka dots that we have got. You can see on top of some of our cacti, like here as well. So same again, exactly what we did before on the rim of the base of our plant pot and on our little cacti bits here. We're just going to do this bit last because sometimes it's nice to have the polka dots on top of where you've used the sgraffito, rather than you scratching them off. So I'm going to use some of our darker yellow, the number 9 that we used for those flowers, and I'm just going to add some dots on this one. Just using the end of a paintbrush. Yeah. There we go. See, he's got some nice yellow spots on him now. I think there was some on our little diagonal fellas here as well. But I think I'm going to use some of this light pink up and do some of them. I really like that actually. You will keep needing to top up the end of your paintbrush because it doesn't really hold the paint very well with polka dots. Nice, I think they look awesome there with their pink polka dots on there as well. I think I'm going to do some on this dude here. I think he needs some dots on him too. I think I'm going to use up maybe some of this even darker pink there. I'm just going to do a few dots coming down from the top, do something a little bit different. Awesome. I think with this design it's whatever goes really, wherever you want to add a little bit more paint, go for it, a little bit more detail, so it's quite nice, a fun bit at the end. Awesome. So I can show you those dark pink dots that I've just done coming down from the top there. Just a few of them. So now all I've got to do once I sign off with you guys is just finish off my little spots and stars that go all around the outside and glaze it and pop it through the kiln, and then we'll have a lovely plant pot like this with a base. So thank you guys so much for watching and joining me today to make your very own cacti plant pot using our sgraffito effect. I hope that you've learnt something new about pottery painting, and if you would like to order a kit to paint your very own, please get in touch. We will keep this video available on our Facebook, so you guys can watch it again if you'd like to do the paint along. For storage, for those of you who have painted along today, if you just want to wrap your pottery piece up carefully in some bubble wrap and put it somewhere safe, you can bring it back to the shop. We are open 11 till 3 for drop-offs, and we'll fire your pottery. Then we can let you know when it's ready. But yeah, please do get in touch to book a slot to come and drop off your pottery pieces. So just keep hold of it. If you can't make it down to the shop as well, then just keep hold of it, and that'll be absolutely fine. The paint won't go off, nothing will happen. It will be absolutely fine as it is if you just keep hold of it for now. But yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and that you will tune in and check in with us tomorrow for live at 5 with Rachel for her children's pottery sale, which will be awesome. But lots of love to you all, hope you're doing okay, and check in with you really soon.